not as cute as Gizmo, but I wanted to prove I could do that once in my life before we talk about 1984's Gremlins. This was written by Chris Columbus and directed by Joe Dante. It stars Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Dick Miller, and of course the voice of Howie Mandel as Gizmo. And this was something I've grown up with. It's only a year younger than I am, and I've loved it throughout my life. I always forget it's a Christmas film until a few weeks ago I was like, I need a Christmas film to do. And then I went, Gremlins is a Christmas film. And I haven't done that yet. I'm surprised I haven't done it yet. How much I love it. But this was such a part of my life growing up. And along with one of the Indiana Jones films, I want to say Temple of Doom, someone will correct me, I'm sure, if that's wrong, this was part of what created the PG-13 rating, because at the time there was PG, which was generally family friendly, couple of moments that might be a bit less suitable for younger viewers, but everyone could enjoy it. And then you pretty much went all the way up to R, where there's a lot more adult themes and it's kind of much heavier territory. There wasn't a middle ground. So, like I say, films of this era were coming out that were sort of pushing the boundaries of what would be acceptable for a PG rating. And eventually the MPAA, I believe, I'm not American, I don't know who decides these things, created the PG-13. And later in this country we had 12 and 15 ratings, etc. between PG and 18. So, yeah, I understand entirely why this was part of that. There are moments in this film that, when I was younger, yes, were a bit kind of terrifying. They were obviously done for fun. It was played for laughs most of the time. It is very cartoony, a lot of the violence. Exploding a gremlin in a microwave, pureeing it in a blender. Younger viewers, like I say in particular, would find that very traumatizing, I'm sure. But this is a weird Christmas film, and that's kind of why I like it. I'm not big on Christmas in the way that many people are. I don't think of it as this amazing festival towards the end of the year where we all get together, because that hasn't happened for 2 years now, and give gifts and have fun together and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of stress for a lot of people. People who've had difficult upbringings, people who've had traumatic experiences around this time of year, and people who just don't have anyone around will not enjoy this time of year. And that's why I like this film as a Christmas film, because it subverts the idea. Yes, we have a gift being given which creates the whole plot, and it is around Christmas and everything's there, it's all festive, but at the end of the day, this is something going very wrong around Christmas, and I love it for that. Kate's story about her dad is what cemented this in my mind as an anti-Christmas tale, I guess, because she hates Christmas, and she says in the film, people think it's weird. You can say you're not a fan of Thanksgiving or whatever, and people are like, okay, fine. But you say you don't like Christmas and people think you're crazy. But like I've given a list of types of people, there are people out there who just cannot deal with this for various reasons. And I love the fact that we have someone in a film from too long ago, nearly 40 years ago, it's creeping up on me, saying these things. I applaud it, because I can't think of any others that really have that message. But there's a lot to love here, aside from the fact that it is an anti-Christmas film for Christmas. And I love the characterisation of Mrs. Deagle as an Ebenezer Scrooge who doesn't receive a redemption, and she just gets yeeted out of the window with that stair lift. So much to love, like I say, in this film. Howie Mandel, I learned a lot about, actually, researching for this. And I never clicked. It never sort of came together in my head that this guy has pretty much one voice that he uses. He's been on, I think it was Jimmy Fallon a few years back, and he was saying the Gizmo voice is the voice for Bobby in Bobby's World. I've never seen that, but it's basically also the voice for Skeeter in the Muppet Babies, which I do remember. I'm like, yeah, that is it. But how he got the role is quite peculiar, because Frank Welker voices a lot of the Gremlins, as well as Peter Cullen. Yes, Optimus Prime himself. Michael Winslow, who you'll probably know from the Police Academy series, if nothing else, as the guy who does all the weird sounds. So many great voice people in this, but Frank Welker knew that in Howie Mandel's routine, he did like a kind of baby voice, because I think years before, like many years ago when he was much younger, he was choking and he was trying to ask for help, but it's squeezed out in this kind of baby voice, and he thought it was quite funny and has used it since. Using trauma for entertainment purposes, that's not unusual at all. But Frank Welker knew about this and said, you should come and voice this cute little character. I think it'd work really well. Weirdly enough, from what I've read, the auditions were held in the same place as a gynecologist office. So he was hearing all of these people doing these gremlin voices and thinking, what's going on with these poor women? Whereas in fact it was just the auditions. That may not be true, but it's what I've read and I'm going to believe it. But yeah, it suits so well. Like, Gizmo is the heart of the film, but he wasn't originally going to be as used as he was, and you can tell. In the second half of the film, he's relegated to very minor motions, like the fact he's in the car is just so he can be part of it, but they don't have to build a full puppet running around. Because he was going to be Stripe, the main gremlin. He was going to actually transform into that. That was going to be his gremlinized form. People came in and went, no, this guy's too cute. I believe Spielberg himself was one of them who was like, this is the main thing. We need to keep this. And Chris Wallace, who made all the creatures in this, was like, well, I'll do what I can, but I can't suddenly make a fully functioning puppet because I wasn't planning for this. But there's so much in here that I keep forgetting about, like Corey Feldman's in it. And some of his interactions with Gizmo are absolutely brilliant. It's an adorable moment. And the fact that this was up against such heavy weights as Ghostbusters on its release, and it still managed to squeak in number 2 under that, I think is testament to it. The weirdest bit is the fact that it was released in June, because they didn't have anything slated to come up against these heavy hitters in the summer blockbuster window. They were like, we need something to release. So even though this is a Christmas film, it went out in June. It's what I consider the opposite to Frozen, because a lot of people think of Frozen as a Christmas film / winter film, but it's actually taking place in summer. It's an artificial winter created. So I think of these as kind of opposites in that regard. But one of the things I do want to sort of shout out in this is Frances Lee McCain is Mrs. Peltzer, Lynn, and some of her subtle facial acting is great. The fact that she goes against the gremlins in the kitchen, holds her own, and fights these people off. Well, fights these creatures off so well is, like I say, testament to her acting ability. I love her in this. Hoyt Axton is great as Randall as well, the dad. All of his crazy little inventions that kind of don't work, but he hopes they might in the future. And of course, Key Luke, who, yes, whilst he was actually quite old at the time of this being filmed, he had quite young-looking skin. He had to be made up to look much older. I don't think they did quite the same for Gremlins 2. But yeah, they tried to make him look a lot older as, well, Mr. Wing as we know him in 2, but he only was credited as grandfather in this. But yeah, without this, we wouldn't have gotten the sequel. I mean, Joe Dante does consider the sequel to be superior. I have more of an attachment to the sequel, I will say. I remember it mostly. There's bits of this that I remember that I kind of put onto the sequel, and there's little bits from the sequel I thought were in this, etc. But my main memories are the sequel. So, that's a very unsubtle way of me telling you that New Year's Eve is going to be Gremlins 2. I know they sing New York, New York, not Auld Lang Syne, but I want to put it in there because I want to do them close together. So next time, we're going to be talking Gremlins 2, and I love that, like I say, more than this one. So I hope you join me for that, but until then, as always, thank you for watching, take care, and watch out for little green monsters.